Have you ever felt like the only way to do something is to coddle yourself and take your time with it and go very slow? Or have you ever felt like you need to jump in head first and do everything and anything just to learn that thing? Well, I'm here to tell you that there are pros and cons to both ways. And that's what we're going to cover on this episode today. Hello, my beautiful, gorgeous dance baby, and welcome to another episode of More Than Dance. Now, we've talked about learning styles before. And today I want to reintroduce you to some concepts that I've talked about in terms of learning style. So there's two main ones that I'm talking about today because there's a ton of learning styles. And specifically today, I'm talking about the coddled comfort learner versus the jump in, dive headfirst learner. And I usually talk about this concept in terms of this imagery of a giant pool with stairs on the shallow end and a diving board on the other end. And I ask my students, how do you want to immerse yourself in the pool? Do you want to take your time walking down the stairs, going inch by inch and getting acclimated to the water? We know that one takes longer. Or do you want to jump in, dive in, get wet, and then your body just acclimates faster? And I talk about this in terms of the studio and doing what I do, which is teaching people how to find their sexy and fall in love with their bodies through dance, which can be a very vulnerable experience. It can be testing, it can be trying on the person because there's a lot of struggle mentally that comes about from being so vulnerable with our bodies. And what my degree in elementary special education and teaching dance for over 20 years has taught me is that you get to know which type of learner you are when you're an adult. And when you're a kid, it's usually really the responsibility of the teacher, and they need to know their students. And when you're an adult, you get to take learning into your own hands and you get to grasp at what you want to grasp at. The problem with that, though, is if you're coddling yourself too much, you're not going to get the proper opportunity to immerse yourself in the pool. And how do I know that I see that a lot. I see students taking their time with things, feeling like, ooh, I gotta be ready to do that. Ready is just an obsolete word. It's just like, let's get rid of it. I'm gonna put that on the no-no list. I'm gonna do that. Let's add that. And the reason is because you're never ready for the great things. We can't possibly be ready for them. We aren't ready for the big things. That's what makes them so big and so great and so impactful. So when you're taking learning into your own hands, you get to dabble in, we're going to call them like personas, dabble in both personas of learning, because there's great things to be said about coddling yourself and taking comfort in your learning process. And there's great things to be said about diving in head first and doing it and getting the F there. Just the same as there's cons to going so slowly and taking your time and coddling yourself and being so comfortable in the learning process, just the same as there is cons to jumping in head first, taking on too much. And we're going to explore those right now. So sometimes we think of dance as the skill is dance. And that's so true in terms of dance. However, learning dance is its own skill in itself. And when you are being a great dancer, you are being a great dance learner. What that means is you can take charge of things. We've discussed this in the past, like what side of the room you stand on, how close to the instructor you stand, whether you're standing and looking at yourself in the mirror, whether you're looking past yourself and working on your memory, whether you're looking at the figure body of the teacher or the reflection of the teacher. There's so many ways to go about experimenting and dabbling in the different ways of learning. And the way that you approach all of it is also a skill in itself. So let's break it down. So we're going to start with the comfort learner, the person who tends to coddle themselves when they learn. This person needs reassurance, time, steps, emotional safety, structure, encouragement, a slow entry, questions, validation. And this person might take their time dabbling in styles. And this person, while all of that is great, aside from potentially the validation, because we don't need validation to know that we're valid. We're just valid. We just are. We is. When I examine this one, there's a touch of insecurity that shines through. There's a touch of questioning themselves that comes through. There's a touch of not having the answers, and that's a problem coming through, versus knowing it's okay to not have the answers. And there's a tiny lack of trust that I sense from this style of learning solely. That's why we want to mix them up. I love the idea of knowing yourself and knowing how deep you want to go into something for the exact reason of that would be too much and that would take me not only out of my comfort zone, you'll be out of your sweet spot, and you might even be in the survival zone. As you know from episode 16, it's so important to know where your sweet spot zone is. So when you find yourself coddling yourself and taking your time and you notice that it's like extra time, and maybe it does serve a purpose, and also maybe it's holding you back and keeping you stuck and allowing fear to stay with you. So now if we just switch over and talk about when we jump head first, I mean, there's so much to be said about that. I actually love when my students come fully ready to jump in and they're at the studio and their consistency is up and their intensity is up. It's so cool. And at the same time, it is a recipe for burnout. So if my said student hasn't learned where their limits are, they're just going to keep going until they burn out and actually scare themselves away from coming back because they don't want to feel that burnout again. What I love about this learning style, though, is the person is fully understanding that they need reps. They need to get in the studio, dance, do more dancing. They're not so much worried about perfection as they are about, I'm going to get better. They're fully committed to the idea that they got to work at it. They don't overthink. I mean, we all overthink, don't we? But they're not overthinking to the point of, first, let me do this, and like, that babying themselves. They just go in, they might be thinking, oh man, I can't wait to get it, or I can't wait to do this and execute this, however way they want to execute it. Though sometimes they want really fast results and sometimes they want big results. And that can be a little bit misleading because as we know, dance, it's an art form, it's a skill, it takes time to learn, and it's not immediate. To go from not dancing at all and then to dancing every day, you are going to get better. Though you may still, after so much work and so much commitment, still not see the image that you wish you want to see when you look at yourself dancing. Every individual skill of this art form takes time. It takes fully knowing alignment, technique, knowing the body, knowing the reasons why we do things, the reasons why we face certain ways. There's also a strength that's involved. And when you first begin, you might not have that strength yet, and it might take some time to build. What I can say that's beautiful about both ways of learning is that once we create momentum, we create more motivation. So what I'm saying here, and I hope that you can see this, is I'm not saying that either of them are bad or either of them are wrong, these learning styles. What I'm saying is it's nice to have doses of both of them. So it's nice to know when you need to take that step back and coddle yourself a little bit, take your journey through the shallow end. Maybe you came to dance like 4 times, 5 times, and you realized, oh, whoa, you had a big aha moment, something you got to work on. Maybe then you're deciding, okay, well, now I'm going to go through this and understand these fundamentals, because the person who is diving in headfirst, they might breeze over fundamentals just because they want to get into the class and learn. They want to learn the choreography, and it becomes more about the choreo than the actual skill to do the choreo. And same can be said about the other person who is taking their time. And it's like, I hear this sometimes, like, and I don't want to intimidate myself or scare myself out of the class because they see that they do have a momentum going. And when I hear that, I'm like, okay, that means that our resistance towards challenge is something that we're fearful of building. And it might mean that, again, we step out of that comfort zone, we go into that sweet spot to figure that out, just the same as you would figure out which learning style to use and when. So when you're taking your next dance class, I want you to think about this. Think about how you're treating yourself. What's your inner dialogue like? Where can you be pushing more and diving in the deep end? And where can you be pulling back a little bit and taking your time walking down the stairs of the shallow end? So I hope this was helpful for you. And if you are learning dance right now, there's something that I want you to always remember, and this goes for both learning styles. The people who learn the fastest are the ones who jump in before they're ready. But the people who last the longest are the people who know how to ease themselves in. There is a time to be gentle, and there is a time to be savage. And don't be afraid to dabble and go back and forth between those within one class. So I hope this was helpful for you. And if it was, it would mean the world to me if you left a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It's the only way the podcast will grow and allow us to continue to help other dancers on their dance journey. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the dance floor.